Hey, thanks for making it to VeteransInfoTap. I am glad you made it because Hadit.com has been exploring and diving in and ripping apart the interview that we had with Daniel Gade, deep diving into certain aspects that may have been overlooked. And I am so glad that they did. T-Bird, Teresa Aldrich, the founder of Hadit, went through and spent a lot of time putting this together. So thank you so much, T-Bird. I appreciate your support very much, and I appreciate you going through that lengthy interview, of which we will probably do another one with Dr. Daniel Gade in the future. Now, for those that don't know, Dr. Gade spoke and testified in front of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. Essentially, I'll try to compress it the best I can. Essentially stating, look, what veterans need is not VA disability compensation, but rather training and job assistance so they can have a fulfilled, meaningful life. They don't need the crutch of money through disability compensation. It is more of a hindrance than an asset. And that's kind of his stance on it. There's more to it, but that's kind of the overarching feel. He's went so far as to say essentially everybody with 50% and below type ratings probably shouldn't even be rated at all. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and jump into it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Every thumbs up, every minute watched really does help the channel expand its reach, which is what we're trying to do. So I'm going to jump into this, and I'm just going directly from Hadit.com, which is a fantastic site full of veteran information. And again, T-Bird put this together, the founder of Hadit.com. So she has it titled the CivDiv / VeteransInfoTap Daniel Gade interview. What veterans need to know. And again, there's so much talked about and it moves so quick, it's easy to miss things. So she starts off with the gist, right? So this is essentially the bluff of it all. And so we'll start with that. It says, on Veterans Day 2025, Dr. Daniel Gade, who testified to the Senate that VA disability compensation in quotations here, I'll say that when they come up. So in quotations, it says here, robs veterans of purpose, gave a revealing interview to VeteransInfoTap and the CivDiv. Key findings, and she's got 6 bullet points here. And I am, again, so grateful that she did this and posted it up on Hadit as well. So, number 1, he, meaning Dr. Daniel Gade, he does not identify as a veteran. Says he stays seated when veterans are asked to stand in church. Considers himself a civilian. Number 2, he built his career on veteran status. Every credential, position, book sale, and speaking fee stems from being a wounded combat veteran. Number 3, he judges veterans through a shame test, calls the system morally bankrupt, tells veterans with sleep apnea to kick rocks, in quotations, describes disabled veterans as, in quotations here, bugs in amber. And next one, bullet here, he won't disclose his own claims, refuses to answer what his disability rating is, which conditions he claimed, or how much compensation he receives. Next bullet here, he didn't disclose conflicts of interest, cited the Independence Project in Senate testimony without revealing he co-founded the organization. Next bullet here, his own research contradicts his claims. The Independence Project study showed veterans who found work still had rising disability ratings at the same rate as those who didn't, proving employment doesn't cure service-connected injuries. I love that point. What better way to say that? Employment does not cure service-connected injuries. Ta-da, go figure. All right, moving on here. On Veterans Day 2025, Jason from VeteransInfoTap and Clay from the CivDiv interviewed Dr. Daniel Gade. 11 days earlier, Gade testified before the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee that VA disability compensation, in quotations, robs veterans of purpose. The interview exposed something beyond policy disagreement, a pattern of shaming and demeaning disabled veterans while positioning himself as morally superior. And I do not disagree. I kind of felt that same way, and I called it out as we moved along. He doesn't identify as a veteran. There's a quotation here. I don't identify really as a veteran. Like when they in church, when they say, hey, veterans stand up on Veterans Day, I just stay seated. You know why? Because I'm a civilian. I'm a civilian. I don't view myself in that way. The man testified to Congress about restructuring benefits for 6.5 million veterans, doesn't consider himself to be one of us. A great point, again. So, it's one person speaking on changing how it all works for 6.5 million, doesn't even consider himself as one of us, right? Unless it benefits him. So, and he did kind of mention that. If it benefits me, I'm going to do it, but if it doesn't benefit me, I'm not, right? So I take that shirt on and off whenever I need to, which is actually a scary mindset. And if you look at people that do that with stuff, it's really not that good. Anyway, I think I could speak for the majority of us that we veterans view ourselves as veterans. Now, we might not go around flying a flag around it, right? Might not have a bunch of bumper stickers on our cars. Some do, and that's cool. But we all identify and know and realize that being a veteran in our time in the military has made us who we are today, good or bad, to be honest with you. So, but mostly good, I would think, right? With a few little quirky things. Anyway, moving on. So here's Gade's career path after leaving Walter Reed in 2005. And I actually want to touch a little bit before that. And I'm going to use the word privileged. And you could take that whatever way you want because it probably applies in 1,000 different ways. So I'm going to say Gade, at the time of his catastrophic injury, okay, horrible situation for anybody. And I'm not here to disparage the man and do any of that stuff, right? He had a solid career in the military, and he was injured catastrophically. He's seen death, all of that, all not good things. I get it. But somehow he was privileged enough, however you want to take it, to be able to have the choice whether to stay in or get out after having his leg amputated very high. I'm not sure how high. Very high, though. Above the knee, right? For sure. So he gets the choice of whether to stay in or not, and then pushed through for a 20-plus year retirement, when I would think that the majority of people in that same kind of a circumstance, losing a limb, probably, just guessing, wouldn't get the choice to stay in. And those individuals are fighting an extremely uphill battle on the Major Richard Starr Act. So how, I ask, and really I'm asking all of you who have been medically retired or medically separated, either one, did you really get a choice? Especially the medically retired. Did you really get a choice? No, because your choice probably would have been like, let me just stay in a few more years, right? So he got the choice to start with. And I think that, if he got forced out, maybe he'd be a champion of the Major Richard Starr Act, and that's the tree he would be barking up. Anyway, let's move on. So here's his career path after leaving Walter Reed, of which he spent time in Walter Reed during the same time as Senator Duckworth, who was a double amputee. And she says that she sees a completely different version of who he was when he was in Walter Reed compared to now. All right, so Anyway, this again is from hadit.com, and I appreciate T-Bird over there putting this together. So a bunch of bullet points here on his career path. 2007 to 2008, White House Domestic Policy Council, Veterans Policy. 2011 through 17, professor at West Point. 2012, co-founded Independence Project, Veteran Employment Research. 2013, published articles criticizing VA disability system. 2015, appointed to National Council on Disability. 2017, American University Professor of Practice. 2020, Senate Campaign, Veteran Policy Platform. 2021, published. So he ran for Senate, right? I think it was in Virginia. I can't remember exactly. So he ran on, we need to get rid of disability. Anyway, so 2021, published Wounding Warriors, book on veterans benefits. 2022 to 2024, Virginia Commissioner of Veterans Services. And what's funny to me is with zero experience as an accredited representative, as an accredited veteran service officer, zero experience helping anybody actually obtain veterans benefits, first of all. So, which is fine, whatever, it happens. So 2022 to 2024, he was actually the Commissioner of Veteran Services. Now, for those that don't know, every state has kind of their own Veterans Services Department, Veterans Affairs Department. Sometimes they're merged with the National Guard for the state. Maybe it's Military and Veterans Services or Affairs or whatever. Every state has one. And that entity is actually supposed to help veterans in the state obtain the VA disability compensation that they rightfully earned through their honorable service. Meanwhile, they appointed a guy who is the opposite of that, which is just really strange to me anyway. So again, favor rubbing elbows with the right, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. 2025, Senate testimony on veterans disability compensation. All right, that's the last one. Every credential, every position, every speaking fee, every book sale, all of it based on his status as a wounded combat veteran. He does not identify as a veteran. He just monetized being one. A fantastic point, T-Bird. He doesn't identify as a veteran. He just monetized being one. The shame test most veterans fail. Gade doesn't just argue policy. He judges veterans morally. Looking down from a pillar on what is morally right. And it's just unbelievable to me. So here's a quotation. Here it says, every claim that somebody puts in is a moral statement, right? Like, is there shame around that? Am I taking $1 from somebody else because I can't do this anymore? That's his quotation. And that is the shameful ideas and messaging that has been around for years. You know what? Hey, do you really need it? Because you can still walk. Save that benefit for somebody who really needs it, right? So that was the shameful methodology that's been around for a very long time and quite frankly, shamed veterans from accessing the benefits that they earned. They're legally there for you. You're not, there's nothing shady about it. They're there. You either have it or you don't. It's either connected to your time in service or it's not. You have to prove all of this stuff. It goes through a legal process. And these are, quite frankly, the benefits that you've earned from your time in service. So shaming people is just absolutely the wrong avenue. All right, the law says, file a claim for service-connected conditions, provide medical evidence, VA verifies through C&P exams and treatment records. That's what Congress created. Glade, why do I keep saying that? Daniel Gade says, Veterans should feel shame before claiming. Apply his personal morality test instead of following the legal standard. And I called him out on that a couple times in the interview that we had, basically stating that this is legally provided benefits that people qualify for. And he said, it's not a matter of being legal or not. It's a matter of morality. It's a matter of should you be filing? Damn right you should be. All right, moving on. His shaming language. He, and again, this is Dr. Daniel Gade, he called the VA disability system morally, quotations, morally totally bankrupt. He described veterans receiving compensation as bugs in amber, that's in quotations, frozen, unable to move forward, not sick, not disabled, just morally weak. Next part here. When asked about veterans with sleep apnea, he dismissed them. If you're 50% for sleep apnea, you're part of the problem. Kick rocks, he said. Not the system needs reform, not maybe there's a better approach. Kick rocks. That's what he tells disabled veterans. And I will tell you this. Anybody who works for a congressional member, a Senate member, anybody in the federal government or state government at any level, be careful with what you align with. Be careful with what you align with because you will be guilty by association. That's just the way that it is. So let's move on. How his framework works. When Jason and Clay asked about his disability rating, he refused to answer. His exact words, my disability rating is kick rocks. He confirms he receives VA disability compensation, won't say how much, won't say for what conditions, but he explains his moral reasoning. He only claimed what he considers real combat injuries. He declined TBI and hearing loss despite being unconscious for 3 weeks and exposed to repeated blasts. In other words, he's shaming anybody who did file for TBI or hearing loss because, look, I have it. It's told I have it. I didn't claim it because I can deal with it, and so should you, is his attitude. In his framework, he passes the shame test. His claims are virtuous. He's morally pure. The problem, most disabled veterans fail his personal morality test because they claim all of their service-connected conditions, which is exactly what the law says they should do. And it's not only what the law says it should do, or they should do, it's what accredited veteran service officers and representatives say they should do. It's what VA attorneys say they should do. It's what the VA claims agents, it's what the veteran service organizations, it's what the VA itself tells them to do. It's what Congress has told them to do. And quite frankly, they haven't been. It's not until recently, it's not until probably the past 10, 15 years where we're finally, maybe 15 years, we're finally seeing this needle move, and stigmas and our own hurdles in our own minds are falling, and we're able to actually move forward with this stuff. So moving on, it says here, they, veterans, file for TBI. They file for hearing loss. They file for sleep apnea from burn pit exposure. They file for PTSD. They follow legal process that Congress created. In Gade's framework, if you file for conditions he personally considers dubious, you fail the shame test. You're morally weak. You're taking $1 from somebody else. And there was times in there where he said, what was his example? He said, look, if you can't walk up to 10 strangers and say, hey, here's the things that I'm rated for from my time in service and not be embarrassed about that, then that's okay. And I disagree with that because guess what? I said, you know what, look, I don't mind. I'll spill the beans. I'll say what I'm rated for. I have zero issue with that. Everything's service connected. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? But there are some conditions that maybe people don't really want to have to talk about. Maybe they are embarrassed by, right? Not every condition is a badge of honor. I'm just saying. So, that's a horrible mindset as well. Moving on, it says here, that's how we get from I made virtuous choices. This is Gade's. This is Gade's methodology. This is Gade's mindset. It says that's how he gets from, in quotations, I made a virtuous choice, to the quotations, the system is full of people gaming it, end quotations. He's not identifying fraud. He's shaming veterans for following the law. That's not gaming the system, following the law, right? The Independence Project conflict of interest, and this is a big one that T-Bird over at hadit.com put out there. And this is really a big deal because this was not highlighted, explained, talked about in the hearing. So the Independence Project conflict of interest. Gade cited the Independence Project in his Senate testimony as evidence supporting his claims about VA disability. In the interview, he minimized his role, made it sound like he was one researcher among many. The facts: he co-founded the Independence Project. He designed the study. He led it while teaching at West Point 2011 to 2017. In his Senate testimony, he said he co-led the study. Never disclosed he co-founded the organization. The study was attached to his testimony, but calling himself someone who co-led the research rather than disclosing he co-founded the organization obscured his conflict of interest. Sample size, by the way, 171 veterans. The sample size that he's using in his referencing 171 veterans who volunteered for an employment program. Gade is using 171 volunteers to justify policy changes affecting 6.5 million disabled veterans, most of whom he considers morally deficient for claiming their service-connected conditions. And I will go on to say that, sadly, he's getting the amount of airplay and being able to have conversations with people who actually make rules and make law. This isn't the right messenger, if you will. What the study actually found, the report's own words. Okay, there's a quotation here. Both groups increased in VBA, which is Veterans Benefits Administration, disability ratings over 12 months with no difference between groups. The data, right? Employment coaching group started at 73% disability rating, increased to 80%. Control group started at 73% disability rating, increased to 80%. Both groups identical, 7% increase in disability ratings. The study's conclusion, the program had no measurable impact on disability ratings, which increased by 7% in both groups during the follow-up. What this proves, veterans who got intensive employment coaching and successful found work still had rising disability ratings at the exact same rate as veterans who didn't work. This means veterans can work full-time and have legitimate service-connected disabilities that worsen over time. Employment doesn't cure service-connected injuries. I love it. What Gade testified to the Senate that disability compensation itself is the problem, that employment proves disabilities are exaggerated. His own research proves the opposite. The voc rehab contradiction. What he didn't mention In 2017 podcast with the Green Beret Foundation, Gade said, "I took advantage of a vocational rehabilitation program through the Department of Veterans Affairs to help me go to graduate school." That's how he got his PhD. The system he now calls morally bankrupt paid for his career credentials. Both statements cannot be true. Either he did use VRE, Veterans Readiness and Employment, as he said in 2017 and is now denying it, or he did not use VRE and fabricated the story in the podcast. Or maybe he just forgot. Talk about dubious. Either way, he's misrepresenting his personal use of VA benefits while testifying to Congress about restructuring those benefits for 6.5 million veterans. Why this matters? The timing was not random. This is part of a coordinated campaign. Washington Post articles about dubious veterans claims, think tank reports questioning the VA system, congressional proposals to restructure benefits, former Trump administration officials, Russell Vought at OMB pushing cuts to VA disability compensation, Gade's Senate testimony entering all of his arguments into the congressional record. His book provides talking points. His media appearance give him the campaign and sympathetic face and moral cover. He's the veteran validator. Someone who can say, "I'm a disabled veteran, and even I think the system is broken. Even I think other veterans are morally weak for claiming their benefits." Veterans are being used as a test case. If they convince America that veterans are gaming the system, they apply that logic to Social Security, disability, Medicaid, every other benefit program. Start with the most protected group. Work backward from there. The numbers. VA Inspector General testimony, October 29, 2025. Fraud rate is 0.007%. Not 7%, 7/1000ths of 1%. There is no fraud crisis. The system works as Congress designed it. And I'll tell you this. For how many cases of fraudulent claims are out there, there's probably multiple times that amount of veterans who were denied wrongfully from the VA. The system works as Congress designed it. Veterans claim service-connected conditions provide medical evidence. VA verifies through examination and review. What Gade calls fraud or gaming the system is veterans legally claiming all of their service-connected conditions. That's not abuse. That's following the law. But in Gade's moral framework, following the law makes you morally deficient if you claim conditions he considers dubious. The unverifiable conditions claim. Clay, over at the CivDiv, challenged Gade on one of his most damaging claims from his Senate testimony. You stated that 9 out of the top 10 disabilities are, quote, totally unfavorable or unverifiable. Not kind of, not a little bit, totally. They are 100% totally unverifiable. The list from Gade's testimony, tinnitus, knee, back, arm, hearing loss, scars, burns, sciatica, ankle, migraine, and PTSD, Clay pointed out that he brought in Dr. Sharma, a physician and board-certified psychiatrist, who went through each condition one by one and explained how they are verifiable through medical examination. He corrected the quote, "It was totally unverifiable or easily exaggerated," Then he cited his source. And here's the quotation. I'm going to give you the actual, there's a textbook on this. It's called The Clinical Assessment of Malingering and Deception, which is the foremost text on the subject. It said, in the 1990s, a consensus of top mental health experts advised that patients seeking money in the form of disability benefits be excluded from clinical trials for PTSD, noting that pursuing compensation results in them being basically willing to misrepresent their condition. All right, what's wrong with this? First, in the 1990s, research, over 30 years old, pre-PACT Act, pre-burn pit recognition, pre-TBI awareness, pre-IED blast injuries as signature wounds. Second, the recommendation was about clinical trial methodology, not fraud detection. Researchers exclude compensation seekers from trial to control for confounding variables, the same way they exclude people of certain medications or with certain comorbidities. Comorbidities. It's about, I've been reading pretty good. I'm just saying. All right. It's about research design, not evidence of fraud. Third, Gade is extrapolating from, quotation here, exclude from trials to maintain research validity to veterans seeking compensation or willing to misrepresent their conditions. That's not what the research says. So he takes what he wants, wraps his own mind around it, and then regurgitates it in a way that helps to frame his own morality narrative. The actual fraud rate, the same Senate hearing where Gade testified, the VA Inspector General testified, fraud rate is 0.007%, not 7, not even 0.7, 7 1/1000ths of 1%. What about physical conditions? Clay pressed him on knee, back, ankle, sciatica injuries, conditions with objective medical findings like range of motion tests, x-rays, MRIs. They could be, quotation here, they could be veterans could be doing this, right? Yes, and yes. And there are dozens of claims companies that get paid to give you a DV their incentive. I don't know, whatever. So probably it's because it's a quote, so it is. It's exactly the ums and the uhs through it. Gade immediately jumped to suggesting systematic fraud throughout claims companies. Okay, yeah, the quotation here. Okay, yeah, but at the bottom of that DBQ, a doctor has to sign it and put their license on the line. Quotation again, absolutely. And you know what? In the book, there's a doctor in Puerto Rico who, for $250, says she will examine you. One doctor out of 300,000 doctors. One doctor out of 300,000 doctors. And Gade used that to suggest the entire system is compromised. And I believe that I'm the one that said, okay, fine, one doctor out of 300,000 doctors. I don't know, fictitious number, but I would imagine that there are a lot of doctors out there that veterans are being seen by, that could get DBQs from. Gade's pattern. This exchange shows Gade's pattern. 1, make sweeping claims about millions of veterans. 2, cite outdated and misrepresented research. 3, when challenged, acknowledge some conditions can be verified. 4, when someone points out that theoretical possibility doesn't equal widespread reality, immediately pivot to suggesting systematic fraud. 5, provide anecdotes. 1 Puerto Rico doctor as evidence affecting 6.5 million disabled veterans. 6, ignore the 0.007 fraud rate testified to at the same hearing. What Clay and Jason established, medical conditions like knee injury, back injuries, PTSD, migraines are verifiable through medical examinations, diagnostic testing, x-rays, MRIs, CAT scans, treatment records, DBQs signed by licensed physicians, C&P examinations conducted by VA clinicians or most likely a contracted physician. The system isn't perfect, but it's not the fraud factory Gade describes while citing 30-year-old research about clinical trial design and one doctor out of 300,000 as proof the system is corrupt. What Gade won't answer. When someone builds their career shaming other veterans, transparency matters. What is his disability rating? He responds, kick rocks. Which specific conditions did he claim? Won't say. How much compensation does he receive? Won't disclose. He won't tell us his service-connected disabilities and percentages, but he wants to judge ours. He judges millions. He shames disabled veterans publicly. He calls the system morally bankrupt, but he won't answer basic questions about his own claims. What veterans should do. Watch the full interview on VeteransInfoTap YouTube channel. Form your own conclusions. Understand this. You're not crazy for feeling attacked. This isn't just policy debate. This is a coordinated shaming of disabled veterans to justify benefit cuts. Contact your representatives. And I'll tell you, I set up VeteransInfoTap.com, and in there you will have a link, a little button you could push. Click here, contact your congressional rep, so it can drive you to your you plug in your information and you'll go to your congressional representative. Tell them that you oppose cuts to service-connected compensation. These benefits were earned through service and verified through medical evidence. The law says if it's service-connected, you're entitled to compensation, period. No shame test required. No moral judgment from people who won't disclose their own claims. When someone says disability compensation robs veterans of purpose, ask them, what's your disability rating? When someone tells veterans with sleep apnea to kick rocks, ask them, why won't you disclose your own claims? If they won't answer, you know everything you need to know about their credibility. Bottom line, again, this is on hadit.com. T-Bird over there, founder, thank you so much. Jason and Clay gave Gade a fair platform on Veterans Day. They challenged his claims. They pushed back on his characterizations. What Gade revealed, his rejection of veteran identity while building his career on that status, his undisclosed conflicts of interest, his pattern of shaming disabled veterans while refusing to apply the same transparency to himself. He builds his career on using the VA benefits system. He receives VA disability compensation. He used VRNE, Veterans Readiness and Employment, or forgot he used it, or forgot what he said in a previous interview. And he calls disabled veterans who follow the law bugs in amber, tells them to kick rocks, and judges them as morally deficient for claiming their service-connected conditions. That's on the record now. The Senate relied on his testimony to consider restricting benefits for millions of veterans. They deserve to know who they're taking advice from. I agree wholeheartedly, and thank you again, T-Bird. I really do appreciate your support over at Hadit. And look, if you've never went to Hadit, which Hadit's been around forever, it is the OG when it comes to veteran resources. Definitely way before YouTube stuff kicked off, Hadit was around. So thank you, Hadit. We appreciate you. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.